Have you heard about this personal and professional podcast?
Coaching in Session
with your host, Michael Rearden.
Welcome, Lydia Kimmerling, to Coaching in Session. How are you doing today?
I'm so good. Thank you so much for having me. It's wonderful to be here with you and your listeners. I am a master life coach and healer. I've been helping people make their lives better since 2010, which for me at that time, coaching wasn't so much of a thing then. People, at least in the UK, they didn't know really what it was. Then through my own journey, it's progressed and really put me onto my spiritual path, which then has opened up other abilities. I channel, I read energy. And so I see myself these days more of a spiritual mentor, and that's really leading people to self-realization and unlocking true, profound fulfillment in their life.
Mm-hmm. You and I are going to have a great conversation today because I just love talking about not only coaching, helping people in general, but the aspect of healing. Because healing is so profound in the sense of what it does, because people don't necessarily know they need to be healed. It's almost like if you are a little bit overweight, you might not feel it. But when you lose to 5 or 10 pounds, you feel like a new person. People, they lose a couple of pounds, they say they feel better than ever. Now, this is not weight loss, but healing can be a burden off from yourself, a healing from the mind, the body, the soul, whatever it be. And many people today, when it comes to their body, they will put it on the back burner. When it comes to their mind, they'll put it on the back burner. When it comes to their spirit or their soul, they will put it on the back burner. So today, I hope we can shift the position and we can give people some intention and some light where they say, let me put some focus in this. And so where I would like to go with this is we can separate it by body, mind, and soul. We can do it that way. We can do it in a way of just a general topic of healing individuals, or we can look at it only from one perspective. It could be spiritual healing, energy, that type of thing. So we have some different avenues. And I always love for the guests to put them on the spot for them to pick, because this is going to set the whole conversation today. So
great.
From those different avenues, which avenue do you think we're going to go down, or would you like to go down today?
Well, that's easy for me, Michael. So I'm all about the soul. Let's really get to the source of that profound healing that's available to everybody. And just to add, I really have a desire that when I'm in these conversations that it offers healing. And just by listening to our conversation today, I want to invite you who's listening to really open your heart and allow what our conversation can bring to meet you where you're at and to bring you onto a healing path, because it really is, it's for everybody.
So we're getting into the root. Where would you say people have lost touch with their soul?
So I think that, we're born deeply connected. And I think to start talking about how we lose connection to self, I need to define self. Because for me, self is source energy. It is the God within. So it's the part of us that is and always will be. It doesn't die or leave when our physical body does. And there's a pairing that happens when you come to earth, which is this self and then personality, which is more connected to the ego. And these two parts come in partnership. But when you're firstborn, you don't really have a personality. You're just being, so you're super connected to self. If you're around kids, you know that. And then around 7, which my boy, he's just turned 7. I'm starting to see this, right? His personality, in a sense of how he defines himself in relation to everything outside of himself, I can see is starting to happen. So I think that that's where we can start to disconnect, because now you're feeling feelings, bigger feelings, and feelings like shame, guilt, embarrassment, fear, and we don't always know how to respond to those or use that energy. So what happens is it's easier to disconnect in the world. And as we all know, then as you carry on in life, it can be really hard. And it can sometimes take something really, really difficult to kind of wake you up and bring you back on that journey home to your true self.
Would you say, or are you familiar with the idea of like a hero and a villain, right? Like a good guy and a bad guy. Let's go into the soul. If the soul can be good or bad or disconnected is the word that you use, is disconnection just a bad moment or a bad mindset in the individual? Because every soul can be good, but not every person decides to be good. So the question is there bad people in the world?
Okay, this is a great question.
It's a tough one too.
There's probably multiple perspectives that have to be held at one time to answer that. First of all, the soul is never disconnected. The soul is always connected. It's that the human becomes more connected externally. So the soul is always there, right? And then it's a choice to connect inward, which means not needing validation externally, not distracting yourself, not numbing yourself with external pursuits. So the soul is never disconnected. Then the idea of a good person and a bad person is really only relative to this dimension, right? Living on Earth. We as humans decide what is good or what is bad. And we all have a different perspective. So I would look at it from a perspective outside of the physical form to say that it's not so much good or bad. It is just what was and what happened. And all of it is important for the role that you play in this life to expand as a soul, which essentially is God experiencing itself in you as you. So the whole idea for me of this experience in life is to experience the full spectrum of positive and negative. So I wouldn't label it necessarily as good or bad, but there definitely is a better way of doing this life that leads to more fulfillment and isn't hurting others as you do.
Yeah, 100% agree with that, because when we look at like just yin and yang, right? Just how life is, right? We take the good and we take the bad, and both help us realize what we have. Because if we just had good in our life, and I know a lot of people, they want good, right? They want a lot of money. They want a happy family. They want a, career that they love and they're passionate about. And we can go down the list of all the wants and desires that people want. But the moment they don't get it, the moment there's a hiccup in their life, the moment there's something that sends them off on a beaten path and they're like, well, I don't know about this. This is not what I signed up for, right? They want the easy road sometimes. But when it comes to those rough patches in life, oh man, if you pay attention, it's so beautiful because you don't necessarily know you're happy most of the time. Most people, they just fall into homeostasis. They just fall in a place where they are complacent. And so my question to you is, how can we start to invigorate the soul? How can we start to help the soul see the good things in life, the happy moments, rather than just kind of going through our day and going through the years? Because so many people, they get so busy and they get so busy, they forget to pay attention.
Yeah, I guess this is what I would refer to as that waking up moment. And we have more than one of those moments when you're on this journey, the journey inwards, which, you could call self-realization, enlightenment. There's many different ways you can refer to it. There needs to be that moment of, I want something more, to start with. And I think a lot of people are living their lives as I was, right? I'm not saying that I have all the answers or that my life is perfect, but I certainly was in that position myself of, I feel like there's more, there's got to be more. And I feel like something's missing, but I just didn't know how to, just in that feeling, if you acknowledge it, if you actually just pay it some attention, it's trying to lead you in that direction. But for a lot of us, we ignore it, and it's easier just to settle and start to believe that, well, life is meant to be a struggle, or life is meant to be difficult. It's not that it's not meant to have that experience, but it also doesn't have to feel that way. Life can be life with all of its struggles, all of its difficulties, and yet you as the experiencer of life can go through it in a state of peace, calm, love, bliss, even whilst everything around you feels like it's chaos. So just to come to the point of how to connect to the soul, it's really, first of all, paying attention to that feeling and saying, okay, I'm going to listen then, show me. And it will start to bring the right mentor, the next friend, the job opportunity, or leaving a relationship, whatever it might be, the next step will unfold.
What I notice with a lot of people is that they feel as if good is not for them. So they won't want, they won't desire, they won't try because they say, this is my circumstance. This is what is allotted for me. So they don't dare greatly. They just are, right? They don't want to be more. They don't want to get to the root of who they are, right? And in a sense, it's sad to see so many people with so much potential and so much to bring to the world, and they're just kind of flying under the radar. They're playing it safe. They're living in their comfort zone. And, you get to live life how you choose, of course. But many people, they're vying for more, like they're wishing and they're hoping that something will change. And as you said, you have to want it, right? You have to want that more. And it's not selfish. It's not egotistical or whatever you want to give your fancy word to it. It's you realizing that you have life, you have opportunity. And, when it comes to life and death, right, they say, life has no meaning, but hopefully somewhere in life you can create the meaning. And so some people, they live a whole lifetime and they have no purpose. They might go after the wrong things. They chase the money, they chase the relationships, and they hope that brings them fulfillment. But then they get it finally. They get the big house, they get the cars, they get everything, the clothes, and they're not happy. They're probably more miserable than if they didn't have those things. So where is the deception? Where is the deceit? That we go after these things that we anticipate are going to give us a good life, that are going to make us feel good. But when we get them, happiness wasn't there, joy wasn't there, fulfillment is missing. How should someone start to look at it or envision what they desire in their life without falling into those pit holes or hurdles of materialistic goods, or the 15-minute fame, or trying to be Instagram famous, or celebrity or something? Like, those things are something we see because we might see a superstar, we say we want that. We see Taylor Swift, we see Kim Kardashian, we see a Jay-Z or someone down the road, and we say, whoa, it would be so nice to have that life. But then we don't necessarily know their shoes until we walk in them. But many people, they just want to, get the stature. So there's a lot to be said here, and in how a person can start on the path to where they should be going rather than where they're being led to with this idea of what the world is saying or society is saying. What's your take on how you help people, find what is for them?
Okay, so there was a lot there in what you've just said. I think, first of all, to address that living your life in a way where you are on a path of material success and believing that's going to make you happy isn't wrong. It's a part of the play. And this is all about experiencing the contrasts, right? I've been that person, and I wouldn't know what I know today if I hadn't have strived for success, obtained it, and then gone, hold on a second, this doesn't feel fulfilling. This isn't what I was expecting. So I don't feel sorry for people who are walking that path, because that's the path and that's where they're meant to be in this moment. But I absolutely know that they have the potential to reach a new state of awareness. And in that new state of awareness, you understand that you weren't truly listening to what your heart was trying to tell you. And the path of the material success and looking at other people and comparing ourselves and thinking, well, that's got to be it. When I get there, then I'm good enough, is very much from the mind. So when I'm working with people, and quite often it has been people who have obtained a lot of success in their life, that it's connecting them back to their hearts. And that's going back to the beginning of this conversation where we talked about, well, what is connection to self? And it's when you look at a child, they're just connected to their heart. They're just in that flow. So as adults, we quite often have to relearn that because we've taken on programming and a script that is a part of the play that's going on in life and world around us. Not for everybody, but let's say in the Western world, it is quite often that way. And then you start to look at, is that what I really think? If I look at the evidence, and if I really look at how I feel and what I've been doing, do I feel good? Do I feel fulfilled? Do I feel complete? Am I content? And if the answer is no, then in that moment, the life you are living is wrong for you. If you want to feel content, if you want fulfillment, then it's wrong for you in that moment. And that's where then it's really coming back into the heart and learning to trust the heart, learning to listen to the heart, letting the mind settle. And in the heart, you're going to get that divine wisdom, guidance, and then start to lead that more spiritual life where there are many blessings and you don't have to work at being happy so much.
I started to think of values. Values are definitely something people look at when they're looking to become more fulfilled in their life. They're saying, what should I be vying for? When you get later on in life, typically it's not about the money anymore. It's about family, typically. Your boy, 7 years old, he's going to be growing up so fast. And, cherish these moments, of course, with him. But then, don't be afraid to let him go when he's ready to run and fly. It's something that's beautiful. Life is always continuous. And, the value of family is something that is going to be long term. It's not something, especially for a mother, it's not something where, all right, I'm going to take care of them until they're 18 and then they're off. We're not birds or anything where they fly away and they don't come back, right? Like, that's not that, right? They're going to come back. They're going to eat the food from your fridge. They're going to, call you if they need some help, whatever it be. And family is so powerful, right? The soul can be powerful too. When we start to look at values or when we start to look at what is powerful in life, how can the soul equate to a powerful entity where we're like, this is powerful? Family can be powerful, for example, as I was giving you. The soul can be powerful, right? It could be spiritual, it could be religious, right? We can go down that road. But to you, right, when you hear the word soul, what is powerful about that?
What is powerful about soul? It's the energy that is within and operating as life force. So your soul is it's like the hard drive of everything that you are and ever have been. And it is creating and containing all experience ever. So your soul is your power, because the soul's just one word for it, right? But it's the light, it's the energy, it's your consciousness, which really is the true you, because it continues to exist. It's infinite, and it generally knows better than the personality, the identity. So the power of the soul is it's the truth. If you want to connect to your heart and live really from that space, it's that process of listening to the guidance of your heart, your soul. I mean, they're collaborating always anyway. The heart really is just the energy center for which the soul can communicate through you too. So as we were talking about the programming, soul is the truth, and then everything else that you're seeing outside of yourself is a part of the kind of play that's happening around you.
Can the soul be deceived? And I ask that because some people, they say, oh, I found my soulmate. I found my life partner. And down the road a little bit, it's, oh, they weren't my soulmate. There's another soulmate for me. So can the soul be deceived is my question to you.
It's a good question. So again, I think we need to hold a couple of perspectives at one time. So the first perspective is yes, because this is all illusion. Everything that we are experiencing is an illusion. And in a sense, your soul is a part of that illusion because it's operating in form as a player on earth. So illusion is really that everything is only ever the perspective you give it. So, 5 years ago, you might have thought, I could never start a podcast because I'm not good enough at communicating. You hold a very strong perspective about yourself. It's true. Then you have an insight. It was an illusion, right? So, but at that point, because of the level of awareness you had and how your soul would have been meeting you at that point, it's playing a part in that deception, if we could call it that too. Then in terms of soulmate, I think people just don't really understand what a soulmate really is. We all want love. We all want love. We just want to be loved. And there's a lot of story around soulmate as well. Somebody might claim that somebody is their soulmate because there's a very deep desire for that level of love, and there's a projection, and maybe it isn't what they thought it was going to be. At the same time, a soulmate won't always be a positive, romantic, beautiful experience. Soulmates come in many forms to grow your soul. That is their purpose. And at some points we need difficult, like that kind of growth. And then you might meet the romantic partner who really is the one for the rest of your life. And it's more like that kind of growth, So.
It's very interesting way. I never thought of it that way. I always thought like in life, you can find people that will resonate with you and, like you vibe with. It could be a friend, it could be a family member, it could be a lover, right? A relationship. Like when people say they found their one, it's like, well, I'm sure if you looked throughout the world, there's, 8 billion people. I'm sure you would have found way more people also that you could have been in a possible relationship. But my question is the journey of life though now, because it's almost like we kind of go with the wind, but we are the sailor, like we are the captain. And so we are steering the ship. The wind is helping us get to where we want to get to be. Sometimes quicker, sometimes not, sometimes through the storms and sometimes through the wonderful sunny days. But it's definitely interesting because sometimes people, they feel like they're lost at sea, maybe. They're wandering astray. They might feel lost. I'm not sure if you have worked with people who say, I feel stuck. I feel lost, right?
All the
The
time.
soul is looking for something, right? And during those times, typically it's like everything else or the joy of life, it seems to kind of be depreciating or just falling apart because you're looking at something and it's like you're looking at the answer, you're looking at the solution, but you don't know how to solve it or you don't know how to come to the conclusion. It's very akin to like a guy looking for his wallet. The wallet's right in front of him, and so he's so distracted, maybe in stress, everything, that he can't say, okay, this is what I'm looking for. This is what I want. It's right there in front of me. Everything else is distracting that individual. It doesn't have to be a guy. It doesn't have to be the wallet, of course, but it's a figurative meaning of being lost and wandering in the world. Is there a way for someone to anchor themselves when they start to feel like they're losing control, when it feels like they're going astray from their path or maybe even look at it in a different way? How to get unstuck if you feel stuck or lost?
I really like the language you used about anchoring yourself, because I think when we feel lost, that's when we want the most control. And it's counterproductive because you want to control, so you start to overthink, and then you're trying to manipulate the future, thinking that that gives you more control. But actually, anchoring is surrendering. So the more that you say, I don't have a clue what I'm meant to be doing, and actually, it's okay. I will allow myself to feel out of control in a way where I anchor into faith. So there's a journey that you normally need to go on to be able to do that, and it's a journey of healing the relationship with yourself to be able to trust yourself. Right? It's when we're controlling and we feel lost. It's usually a sign that there's a gap in the relationship you have with yourself. So because of that, because you feel like a stranger to yourself, you don't trust yourself. And when you don't trust yourself, you can't trust life, because essentially you are the director of your life. And when you can't trust life, you can't let go, because it feels unsafe to do that. So there's a whole journey there of healing your relationship with yourself. But when you really come into surrender, it's something much bigger. And that is then taking the trust and deepening it into faith. As you deepen into faith, this unlocks something so powerful, which is an energy that says, aha, okay, now you're getting out of the way. Now I can support you. And that I, for me, is God. I could also say the universe. It's the energy of creation that is in all things at all times. That energy will come in and it will carry you, support you, and bring you surprises that you couldn't have imagined for yourself. But you have to get out of the way first.
Yeah. Oftentimes, many people there are going to be their own obstacles. Of course, there's going to be naysayers in the world. There's going to be people who are going to give you limits in a sense. They're going to tell you what you can and can't do. They're going to be Debbie Downers, is basically a person who's just always negative. And when our soul is around fixed-minded individuals or people who are not interested in our growth, it might make us feel as if, we are, whatever it is we're around, right? The negative people, the, like the no hope tomorrows or whatever you want to consider it. Our world is going to be mixed and, going back to the beginning, the good and bad people, because I know it's going to go full circle. It's like we're going to be faced with individuals who are going to try to tarnish our soul or step on our soul or whatever you want to consider it, right? They're going to try to hurt us in a sense. So we have to almost put on armor because it could be spiritual armor. I know people pray where they say, okay, I'm going to pray on this, and that becomes their armor. But, we're living in a society, especially in the West, in America, where everyone cares about themselves, not so much about the individual. The golden rule no longer applies, it seems like. So people are not going to care about your soul. They're not going to care about where you are. They want to get ahead, right? So it's almost a very singular way of living where it's like my soul or my being or my entity is for me to worry about, is for me to be concerned. I'm not worried about trampling on other people. And so, the question or the conversation I would like to have with you is, how can a person remain positive or a person remain in the environment where they're around other souls that are powerful and able to uplift one another rather than, being in a restrictive environment where it feels as if, the people around them are trying to, be a part of their downfall and demise?
Yeah, firstly, surrounding yourself with people who support you and love you and hold the highest vision for you is definitely important and such a blessing. And quite often on this journey, I went through this and I see a lot of other people go through this. You get to a point where you realize the friends that you keep are no longer a match. And it doesn't necessarily make those people are bad people. That's not what you're saying. it's just you notice that the way that they do life doesn't match the way you want to do it anymore. So you would have been matching with those people before because of the idea you held about yourself. You're only going to stay giving your time. Like your time that is life. Your time is life. So you're giving your one precious life in this moment to people who don't feel like they're a match for you because you're not honoring yourself. You don't believe you're worthy of anything more than that experience, or you're still thinking like them. So if you have that feeling right now where you're like, I don't even really, and why am I even spending time with these people? I don't even enjoy these people. The shift there is then breaking through the fear of kind of walking away and letting them go. And that might be family, it might be friends, it might be colleagues, it might be a job. And then, as we said, going into the surrendering, then into the faith, using prayer and trusting that as you in your heart set your intention on what it is you do want. I want a group of friends that I feel alive around. I want to be in a workplace where I feel respected. Whatever it is you need, bring that into your heart and do the hard piece of surrender and take action, and then it will find you, it will come to you.
I think one of the important things was one of the first things you said, right? Find people who want to support you, the people who want to see you win in life, and you make sure you nurture those relationships. And I'm just using different words now, but it's important that we find individuals that want to see us win as much as we want to win. That's one of the main reasons I love working with coaches and introducing coaches to the audience, because it's important that you find your match. And coaching in session essentially is kind of like a soulmate matching experience for individuals who are looking to enhance themselves, because there's always going to be another coach. There's always going to be a person with a different perspective, a different way of doing these things of life. But you have to find the person that resonates with you. And the conversation we had today, Lydia, is definitely one where I believe many individuals are going to find that they have resonated with some of the things you have said, because they have been profound. They have been eye-opening, because many people, when it comes to their soul, they might not have been taking care of it the way they should have. But it's not a, jab at them to say you should do better, because, in life, as you said, we have to welcome that part of the journey. And it's so important for people to realize that it's okay that you're not okay right now. It's okay that you want something more. Let's figure out how to get it. And I believe that the work that you do is definitely going to be gearing people and steering people in that direction so they can find that joy, that fulfillment, that happiness. It's so important. But before we wrap up and everything, I do want to get some final words from you. And I do want you to tell the audience where they can find you and reach out to you.
Thank you. Final words are just a reminder that you are so loved. You really are. And there is an energy that wants to see you succeed in your joy and your happiness. And I really wish the best for you today, and that you feel that love and receive that love. And if you want to connect with me, find out more about me, come over to Instagram. My Instagram handle is at Lydia Kimmerling, so just my full name. Or you can find out more about me on my website. I've got loads of free things there, guys. So jump on over for a free meditation or a free happiness program. That's thehappinessexplorer.com. And I look forward to connecting.
Perfect. And I'll make it easy for everyone. The handle is going to be below, and as well as the website, so people can check you out, Lydia. And I encourage people to, peruse the website, because you're going to find some wonderful things. I know when I do things on my website, from the blogs to the podcasts and motivational stuff, I mean, there's something for everyone. But then again, I am very aware that I'm not everyone's cup of tea. I'm more of a spicy guy, I guess you can say. But, from, speaking with you, Lydia, I could tell that you just, you're so full of compassion, and are passionate about your work. I can tell that from just speaking with you today. And I'm excited for, for people to reach out and learn how they can succeed in life, and how they can start to, get to the root of their soul and figure out what is their meaning in life. Because if you feel stuck, if you feel lost, you don't have to stay there. Figure out how you can get into the direction of life where you want to be, so you can look back and say, I'm glad I reached out to Lydia, or I'm glad I decided to make a shift or a change in my life. Because in life, it's fleeting, it's moving so quickly. So don't let the moments pass you by so quickly and, too readily. So take action today. Again, all the links are right down below. And Lydia, thank you so much for coming on, being a wonderful guest, and also having a wonderful conversation.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.